Hello again, and welcome to the Radical Rant podcast, episode number 3 for June the 5th, 2019. If you're listening to this version of the podcast, this is because I got lucky and the sound is not coming through as bad. There is currently balcony construction going on outside my apartment, so I'm starting to worry that, I'm not going to be able to record in the mornings for a little while until they get this stuff done. If I do manage to get this done, then obviously I made it through. If not, this is going to be something that I do later in the evening when they've left, and it'll probably be posted either late Wednesday night or Thursday mornings in the future. So if you're listening to this version, just a heads up, if you don't see it Wednesday afternoon like it normally is, that's the reason why. It's because there's too much noise and I can't record for long enough to make a successful show here. So anyways, we're not going to talk about too many different topics because E3 obviously is coming up and I want to go through that, but I want to get through a couple of really tiny stories. The first and foremost, because I'm not even going to waste any time here, is I hope you enjoy the smell of your Xbox, because apparently you can, at least in Australia and New Zealand, you can smell like Xbox because they're releasing a line of like body wash and stuff. I saw that in the news and I'm thinking, did we go back in time? Did I forget like April Fools? Actually, if I got in fool, like is somebody punking me and that it's actually April 1st and not June? Like I don't know. Even to the point that like the creator of the Xbox, Seamus Blackley, like has no comment on this thing. He doesn't seem too happy about it. It's kind of crazy when you think about that. It's the kind of item, honestly, that just doesn't make any sense. And I don't really have too much to say about it. I just thought it was so goddamn funny when I saw the news of it. And I mean, I guess we can just come up with whatever we want these days. I mean, sure, let's just start getting some Nintendo Zelda, long range milk. Let's just go all in on this stuff, right? But Xbox body wash, like the way the bottles are marketed, it looks like fucking Axe body wash. It's bizarre. But either way, I just wanted to just quickly, because that was the thing that was just making me laugh yesterday. The only serious story I wanted to talk about before I get on to all the E3 stuff is I want to talk about what happened last week at a Chicago Cubs Houston Astros game. And I don't talk about sports too often here because I don't think just, randomly talking about a trade or something really does anything here. But I think this one really has some value here. So on, I believe it was a Thursday night game, if I remember correctly. Albert Almora Jr. was at the plate, and he just, did what you usually do when you swing at a pitch and you foul it. It just fouled off. This time, though, it didn't quite be as harmless as most of them are. As soon as he hit it, he looked at it as he was following it, and he even said he knew, like he was locked on this little 4-year-old girl that the ball ended up hitting right in the head. And we don't have too many reports as to the girl's condition now. We do know that at the bare minimum she was okay. We don't know the extent of any injuries that she took. From what a lot of people in the stands nearby were saying is that she was silent for a good couple of seconds, which freaked the parents out because wouldn't you, thinking like a 90-mile-an-hour foul ball like hitting your child in the head, like that could have just literally killed her on spot. But after a couple seconds, she just started crying and seemed, I can't remember if they were saying if they saw like she was bleeding at all or not. But later in the game, people were being told by security guards that she was at least okay in hospital, and Almora Jr. was told by one of the security guards, in a picture is surfaced online for a while, that he was just hugging that security guard because it was just breaking him up. Because when he realized what had happened, as soon as he saw that the ball was hit, and you can see the videos online, and it's heartbreaking, he just collapses. Like he goes down to his knees, he's fucking crying because he has kids that young too, and he can't imagine what it would be. And I mean, it's the same thing. Like you don't want to see anybody get hurt, but especially when it's a 4-year-old kid, it's a toddler basically, and you're just like, oh my god. And he did end up striking out, and you could tell like he was fucked for that game. Like he was not going to be able to focus for the rest of it. that was a tough thing to watch because I mean I've seen people when I play rec league softball for God's sakes, and we don't hit the ball even twice. Like we don't even hit the ball half as hard as some of these guys do, and I've seen people get hit hard with it, and it scares the shit out of you because you don't know. Because if it hits you in the right spot, God only knows what happens, right? So it brings up the conversation, and this is a conversation that seems to be having all the time. Is that there needs to be more netting. And I know a lot of people are on both sides of this argument. Some people say that they should just be going as far as netting the entire foul line. Because, I mean, we've seen, like, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., because I'm a Blue Jays fan, we've seen him hit over 115 miles an hour when the ball comes off his bat. And you got to think, if that keeps that speed up even just a little bit, like, that's going to... Like, even if you try to protect yourself, if that hits you in the arm, that's going to do some real freaking damage, right? So the argument to put up full netting, it makes sense when you really think about it. At the same time, I know that there are obviously a lot of people that be like, no, don't put netting up. I don't want my vision blocked, blah, blah, blah. And I get that too. I've sat around the foul lines where there is netting, and it's not like the most distracting thing in the world, but it is there. But I think that that's the kind of thing that you accept because it means you're not going to get your frickin' head taken off. But I get there needs to be a compromise. I don't think it makes sense to just net the entire time, but I think you need, especially at least as far as the dugout, maybe a little bit further than that, to net it off and also make the net higher, because even if he gets it high up in the air, it has time to come back down and lose a little bit of speed, but it could still go flying into the second deck at a high speed. So I think the way the netting should be working is that it should be covering up line drives that are going into foul territory that could perceivably have a lot of speed. If you can justify that if it goes right down to the corner by the foul pole, that people sitting in that part of the stands would have plenty of time to react to it and the speed of it wouldn't be nearly as great, then you can make that case. But any area that you see fit would be risky to at least 80, 90, and especially 100 mile an hour ball being hit that way. You need to net it off. The only thing, especially by the dugouts all the way to the back of the plate, like that should be heightened enough that the only thing that's going to get over there into the fans is pop flies that go back into foul territory. It shouldn't be line drives. There should be no risk of that. So I go both ways on this, and it's like this with a lot of sports, honestly. Like, I don't understand why there are front row seats so close to the court in basketball, because you see clips every once in a while of players leaping into the crowds. Like, we see that infamous clip of Shaq leaping like 3 rows into the crowd. Like, somebody could be seriously hurt doing that. I don't get why the crowd is so close there. In the same vein that I don't get why announcers are so close to there. I don't get why, especially in hockey, there's the one guy between the two benches. Because me personally, I don't care about what the coach is saying to the other guys on the bench. Like, that's not important. It's not a story. I don't want to hear about what the conversations are going on between the benches. Like, I don't want to hear about shit talking, because if there's something going on, the cameras will pick it up and it makes the moment even better. I don't need somebody telling me what's going on. I'd rather see it. And I think that kind of stuff, it leads to kind of like the mystery of what's going on. Like, if it's a tense moment and you don't know exactly what's going on behind the bench and you just have the camera angle and you just see the coach just staring, or he's talking with his guys, he looks a little bit angry, you're guessing what's going on. And it makes the game a little bit more tense because you don't know. And the same goes for basketball and football and all the stuff. Like, the only time I want to see people on the ground right by the benches is when it's like in like a TV intermission and they're getting a quick word, if they can do that. But I don't want to see that shit in the middle of the game. I don't like it. Because I think at the end of the day, like, we've seen a couple of times, especially in hockey, where the guys between the benches have been nailed with the puck. And I don't care that it's like, oh, well, it's an old school hockey player, he's okay with it. Well, I'm like, no, it's still at the end of the day, like, if a guy takes a shot to the head, he doesn't have a helmet like the players do. He doesn't have protective equipment like the players do. He's wearing a suit. The suit's not going to freaking protect him like shoulder pads and chest protectors would. Like, come on. So, I mean, going all the way back to baseball with the netting, it just comes down to we need to be erring on the side of safety more than we should be erring on the side of convenience. Because I don't think that having people close to the ground means anything. And when it comes to sitting in the audience that close, and I have before in unprotected territory, and foul balls have come not like remarkably close, but close enough that I get a sense of the speed. If you're not fully paying attention, you aren't going to catch the ball. You might not even be able to block it from hitting you if you have a glove on. And if you don't have a glove, you're even more screwed because sure, you can put your hand up, but if it hits you in the right spot, you could break a finger, you could break your hand, you could break your wrist, or fracture at least. Not to mention that if you're just not even looking at the right moment, of course, everybody being down on their phones, or if people are bringing kids and they're too busy keeping an eye on them, that's all it takes. All it takes is one pitch where you don't look dead at the batter and you not notice the ball. And some people don't even have the hand-eye coordination to be that fast on the draw to be able to get their hands up either. So it goes both ways. I think we need to just eliminate the danger as much as we can. I'm not saying let's just net everything so that way, home run balls can't be worried about, because you could make a case for anywhere. Like even a pop fly could still hurt somebody if you're not paying attention. So the way I see it, honestly, is we need to find a compromise, but the clear answer here is that there needs to be more netting regardless. Whether it's a little or a lot, it doesn't really matter, because when we keep having things like this, somebody died a couple of years ago, I believe, of getting a ball hit in the head. And it's just, you got to be careful with these things, and we can't be risking these things anymore. In a sport like this that's supposed to be like one of the least dangerous sports out there, it seems like there's still a lot that we have to worry about. So that's my take on that. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about that too, because as a guy who plays baseball, I have a good sense of how fast the ball goes, and I'm thinking, well, if it's in the major leagues, so I'm doubling or tripling that speed, and yeah, I'm already afraid of just underhand pitching in my slow pitch rec league, and I need that fence that I can hide behind in case the ball gets hit right at me, because that feels like it's being hit at 100 miles an hour at me, and it's probably more like 50 at best. So if that's scaring the shit out of me, I certainly wouldn't want to be on the foul line taking a 100-mile-an-hour hit dead to the face. That's not going to go very well. All right, so the rest of the show is going to be towards E3. I'm fortunate that for the next week I have Wednesday to Friday off, so I'm going to have a lot of ability to film or to record a bunch of recaps, and that's my plan of all the major ones that I'm interested in personally. So the ones that I plan on getting, and this is the schedule for its actual streams. I don't know if I'll be able to stream or if I'll be able to do recaps as soon as possible on those. I may just wait all the way to Wednesday and just try to get them all done, but we'll see what happens. So the schedule at this point is this, and Sony doesn't have anything yet. They might do a state of play, but they haven't announced anything, because it's weird. Around the same time Days of Play is happening, so there's a very big chance that we might just see something come out of nowhere, but I doubt it. I feel like they're waiting to see what Microsoft and Nintendo are doing to see kind of where they need to strike next. So I doubt we're going to see anything from Sony in the next week, but you never know. So the schedule at this point is as follows. So EA is doing their own live stream, kind of like what Nintendo does with their directs. They're going Saturday, June the 8th at 12:15 p.m. Eastern. Microsoft is one of the few big conferences we got. They are Sunday, June the 9th at 4 p.m. Eastern. Bethesda is also Sunday, June the 9th. They'll be at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. I will not be covering these next two because I tried watching these shows and I'm not too interested in them. Devolver Digital is also Sunday, June the 9th at 10 p.m. The PC Gaming Show is Monday, June the 10th at 1 p.m. Eastern. And sure, there could be some cool stuff in there, but the problem with... Oh, there's a little bit of noise going there. I hope that doesn't catch. The problem with the PC Gaming Show is that I find that it ends up being more like an interview session, and it's not really much of a showcase, so I don't get as much as I would like. So I won't cover that like I normally do. Unless there's like a big game announced, maybe I'll talk about it, but I don't want to spend time on a show that I'm not going to have too much to say about. So that show, for those who are interested, that's Monday, June the 10th at 1 p.m. Eastern. The other three that I will definitely be covering, Ubisoft is June the 10th on Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern, and Square Enix finishes off that night at 9 p.m. And then Nintendo will be the last conference that we know of doing their live stream on Tuesday, June the 11th at 12 p.m. Eastern. So, assuming that I have the time to do it all, you should be getting 6 recaps on the channel from me. 1 for EA, 1 for Microsoft, 1 for Bethesda, 1 for Ubisoft, 1 for Square Enix, and 1 for Nintendo. The way that I plan on doing these recaps is I'm just going to go through each game that I see. Unless there's things that I don't want to talk about, I'll just glance over that. And I will give a letter grade for what I saw, and this will not be hype value. This is what I believe I've seen, and this is what I believe is worth talking about. So if I give something an A+, that means I'm more than excited, and I might even be pre-ordering this bloody thing that they're showing off. And I will also make sure to discertain that if there is just a video trailer or a gameplay trailer, because that is also more important, because I could be hyped by an announcement, but if I don't know what the game's looking like, then I don't want to necessarily go too crazy about it. So from here on out, I can give you a few ideas of what's going on. I'm not going to talk specifically on what each company's going to do, because I don't know each company enough to really get an idea of, because I'm a Sony guy. Like, I own a PS4. I don't own any other console. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you what I think Microsoft's going to do or Nintendo's going to do, because I don't have the knowledge of in-depth of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm looking at IGN's list of games that they expect to see or is rumored to see, and I will comment based on that list. And I'm not going to talk about every game. I'm going to talk about games I recognize and games that I think actually have something to talk about. I don't want to just be like, oh, here's this random indie game, and I'm not going to have anything to say about it. So right off the top, and this is all in alphabetical order that I'm going to do this in. So the first one here is Anthem. And I assume that this would mean that Season 2 is going to get announced of whatever it is. And the downside here is that this could be almost like a last hurrah for BioWare, because there's a very distinct opportunity, or there's a very distinct chance, I should say, that this could just keep going so downhill. And I don't even see Dragon Age 4 listed anymore, because I heard things about it being canceled, but I didn't see if that was confirmed. But if it's not on the list here, that makes me wonder, right? It's sad, because this is a company that I love so much, and to see them flounder so much and possibly be getting shut down very soon is depressing. And Anthem is a big part of that. Obviously, the fail of Mass Effect Andromeda was a big part of that. So Anthem being shown at E3 this year, you know that they either have to go all out here, or they're going to go out with such a whimper. It's going to be one or the other. It's not going to be all right, that's progress. It's either going to be a holy shit, they're really going for it, or all right, I guess that's it. It's going to be one of the two. Apex Legends, the numbers for that game have dropped so drastically. It's crazy to think about it. I'm shocked, actually, that the game has lost as much traction as it has, because even Fortnite's kept it, but I think because Fortnite's got the kid crowd, that's easier to keep along, whereas adults are always flip-flopping on various things, because, I know me, like, I'm playing something different every month. It's not like I'm, sticking to one thing and that's it. It'd be interesting to see where they go with it. I think they have a Seasons 2 as well to worry about, and we'll see what goes on with that, but I don't know. It's unless they have some really cool like crossover or something. I don't know if they're going to blow anybody away with something at EA's thing. They'll probably just show off something really quick just to be like, hey, some more content's coming. I don't imagine it being too much though. Borderlands 3, we are obviously going to get a full gameplay trailer. There's no way we shouldn't be. This is a series that people have been looking forward to another game for a while, especially with a lot of looter shooters really lacking as of late. And I think people can't wait to finally get their hands on a new one. I was hoping that they would take it a little bit more in a Destiny direction with Borderlands, but if they're still doing what they do here, it's fine. It is what it is. I'm more than happy to deal with that. So I'm excited to see where that goes. The big thing I'm excited to see, obviously, is going to be Cyberpunk 2077. Even though Sony has no conference, there is at least one big thing that I need to pay attention to. Actually, there's two. This is one. The gameplay trailer we saw last year was incredible, and I need to see more, and I need to know when it's coming, because if it's coming soon, some people are saying it may actually be out this year. I highly doubt that. I would expect at the earliest to be spring 2020. I would not be surprised if it's fall, maybe even later. But I feel like we should be getting a date for sure on this game, whether it's somehow this year or sometime next year. That would be my assumption. So that's obviously exciting. I'm not too big on the series because I've never played it, but apparently we're seeing a new Darksiders, which is great either way because anytime a game gets to have a comeback, that's great. I'm not going to go too much further into that. Division 2, I suspect it's just going to be like its next little tiny expansion. I've heard from a lot of my friends, because I haven't played it myself, that it's definitely a lot better than the original, which is great. And I have people that are playing it and they swear by it. So it's a good sign to see that Ubisoft, like with Rainbow Six Siege, is learning from their first attempts and taking it in a much bigger direction. Doom Eternal, obviously that's going to be fantastic. That's all I can really say about that. I mean, if Bethesda can find a way to screw up Doom, then you know that Bethesda is really in trouble. But you'd have to try really hard, especially after the Doom that they rebooted. I mean, that reboot game was fantastic. So if they somehow find a way to screw this up, I mean, I don't know what to tell them at this point. Dying Light 2, never played the original, so I'm not sure about that one. Although a lot of people that I know that played it, they really liked it, so they're happy to see that there's a second one coming out. No one cares about FIFA 20. We just know that's going to be, hey, here's some two random schmucks again to talk about the game that you're just going to spend $1,000 on. Fortnite, doesn't really need to say much about it. That's going to be a thing. For Honor, probably just a small thing from Ubisoft, just saying, hey, here's our next little thing coming out. Gears of War 5. I don't know. It's the same with me like with Halo Infinite. So you know what? I'll group the two together. I'm obviously not an Xbox player. I haven't played since the 360. And Gears of War Judgment was the last one I played in that series. I did play Halo 4, didn't enjoy it too much because I think I just kind of grew out of that series. But, I mean, they're always going to be solid. It's not really the kind of game that they make a bad one of so much as they either make a really good one or they make a good one. So I'm not going to say too much beyond that, but, it's always nice to see at least some consistency. And to see Gears keeping things going and Halo keeping things going. It's nice to see because at least for Xbox fans who don't have nearly as many big name exclusives as, say, a Sony does or a Nintendo does, it's good to see that at least their mainstays are doing very well. Ghost Recon Breakpoint, I did see the initial trailer for it. It didn't seem like anything special to me. I played a little bit of Wildlands with friends. It was fine. Like, it wasn't offensively bad. But, I mean, Ghost Recon games I've never been too big on. They've always been, like... Because I'm not too big on the stealth stuff, so to be a little quiet while I do everything, it takes too much time. I'd rather just go in guns a-blazing. And I know you can, but it's also a little bit harder that way. But, I mean, we'll see what it is. It could be something a little bit more inventive. You never know. Harvest Moon's finally making a comeback on Switch and PS4. I didn't even know about this. Harvest Moon Mad Dash. I'm just curious to see what it looks like. If it's like more like the old school stuff, I'd be happy to play that again because Harvest Moon 64 is a game that to me had no business being as much fun as it was for me, and yet it still was. So I go down the list again. No one cares about Madden. Marvel's Avengers is on the list, but I'm going to finish with this game because that's going to be how I end the show because I want to just not rage about it, I'll rant about it and just gush about what I hope this thing is going to be. Monster Hunter World Iceborne, hopefully that is a free DLC. I would love to see it as that so I can get back into playing it because if it's like a $10, $15 expansion, I have no interest in going back then because I don't feel like paying money just to go back for a few hours here and there. I enjoyed the hell out of that game. I'm shocked that I enjoyed it as much as I did because I was worried that because of how it's like a Dark Souls fight, I guess I could say, but the fact that I had a lot of friends to play with I think helped a lot. But it was a game that I did have a lot of fun with it and a lot more fun with it than I assumed I would. So hopefully we get to see more out of that, and I'd love to see myself playing that game again because I haven't done it in a while. Psychonauts, I can't remember if it's a remaster or a remake. Either way, I've never played the original, so I'd love to take a look at it now, and we'll see how that goes. Rainbow Six Siege, I don't know if they're going to show off anything too crazy with it. It might just be a quick, like, hey, here's something coming up that's, just going to be a free update today. Sims 4, same deal, probably some stupid expansion that's going to cost you $20 again. I can't believe. I'm actually genuinely surprised they're still doing stuff for this game and not advertising a new Sims, because I think there's been enough time that you would assume that they'd be doing something different. Sniper Elite VR, that's a crazy cool VR game. I would love to play that if I had a VR system for PlayStation, because it is on PS4 and PC. That's all I can say about that, but it would remind me a lot of like Silent Scope, for example, so that'd be really cool. Splatoon 2 and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate are listed, so probably just some new DLC for Splatoon. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is going to obviously be a new big character. I've heard rumors that Banjo-Kazooie is looking out to be there. Obviously, with Kingdom Hearts starting to pop up around on Nintendo Switch, there's a chance that maybe Sora is in there. That would blow people's minds the same way that Joker did last year from Persona 5. But yeah, it's just Smash. Like it's not gonna be anything too crazy. They'll probably reveal a couple cool characters, and we'll be like, all right, let's go. Super Mario Maker 2. I mean, I don't need to say much about that. Obviously, people have seen how crazy it is, and still the crazy things people are making now in the original. Trails of Cold Steel 3, I'm looking forward to seeing that because I actually still need to finish the second one on Vita. I'm probably right at the end, and then I can't remember what game just completely broke me away from it. But I need to see the third one. Apparently there's a fourth one already in the works, and it's like crap. Like every time Japan does stuff like this and they take forever to localize it, I get so miserable because I just want to play it. And the last one on the list that I'm at least aware of that I'm curious about is Watch Dogs Legion, which is funny because I didn't think I would care too much about a Watch Dogs game. Oh, by the way, this is all list of games for sure. I haven't even got to the rumored stuff yet. But Watch Dogs Legion was recently just revealed. I didn't enjoy the first at all. Like, it was okay at best. Like, the idea of it was cool, and they just didn't really do anything with it. Watch Dogs 2, on the other hand, was a lot better. I enjoyed the hell out of that game. Just because I could drive around listening to Judas Priest while I'm doing stuff. It was fantastic. But yeah, that's everything that is at least for sure confirmed. So this is all the rumored games that we're seeing. And again, I'm only going to talk about games that I know anything about. I don't want to talk about stuff that I don't really know anything of. If I don't know what the title is, then I'm not going to talk about it. There's potentially a new Animal Crossing for Switch, which would make sense. It's been long enough between games. They've had one game on the GameCube. They had, I think there's the Wii one. I don't know if there was a separate Wii U one or not. I can't remember. I know there was one for 3DS, and I know there was the mobile game. So it makes sense that we're overdue for that. Actually, surprisingly, what isn't listed on this is Metroid Prime 4. And I'm going to say right now, if they still have nothing to show off, I don't know why the hell they announced the damn thing. I feel like Daemon X Machina is something that I should remember what it was, because the name seems familiar. I'm going to quickly Google this to see what it was, because I swear this seems familiar to me. Maybe they showed this off at some point before. I actually think this is something Nintendo showed off at one point. Oh yeah, I kind of remember this. It's sort of like a Mech Warrior looking thing, or like a Zone of the Enders looking thing. I'm not going to comment too much on it because I don't really remember much of it. Destroy All Humans is a possible comeback, which I played, I think, I can't remember if it was the original or the second one on PS2 back in the day. But they were okay. Obviously, there are some people that are really excited about it, and that's cool. But I'm not going to sit here and say I'm like overly excited, because if I'm going to look at a game where aliens are invading, I got XCOM for that. Let's see. The Final Fantasy VII remakes, I don't think it should be a rumor. I think we're going to see something about it somewhere. Because, I mean, there's no way Square, after having another trailer, is not going to show something new of it. So, I mean, is it more gameplay? Is it something outside of Midgar, maybe? I don't know. Or at the very least, it's a release date. I think that would probably be the likelihood, is that it's going to be a release date for the first chapter, which I keep saying, I think if there's a first chapter, because they want to do it episodic, I think that first chapter episode, whichever they want to call it, is going to be basically the entirety of Midgar. That would be my guess. It would make sense. As soon as you motorcycle jump out of Midgar and get out of the Shinra bubble, I think that's a great spot to finish at. I'm starting to hear a little bit of noise outside, so I'm hoping I can finish this quickly. What am I actually at time-wise? Let's see here. We are at almost half an hour. So you know what? If it's a quicker podcast because of the noise, let's take that as we can. So I'll try to breeze through the rest here that I can see. A new Fire Emblem. That's obviously something I would love to play. but obviously not having a Switch is a little bit of a challenge. And I don't know if I'm kind of at the point that I'm not even sure if I'm going to ever have a Switch now, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to have the financial stability to just go ahead and pay another $500 for a new console, especially when I have the PS5 to worry about coming soon as well. It depends too, because I mean, if I run out of things to play, maybe I can find something on the Switch to give me a reason to buy it. But I mean, either way, I love Fire Emblem. I need to go back and play Awakening, or not Awakening, Birthright, because I haven't finished that. I still play Heroes on and off when I can on my phone, so there's a lot of stuff. Apparently, I'm seeing this on the list. It's a From Software project that's a collaboration with George R.R. Martin. I don't know necessarily what that means, if that's a Game of Thrones thing or if that's just its own little side project. Who knows? But I'm not going to go too big on that and talk too much about it. That just seems cool. I see a Gears Tactics. I don't know if that's Gears of War, if that's a PC tactics game. It would make sense. Like, they already have a Halo Wars series, so maybe doing that for Gears makes sense. I mean, it basically looks like the kind of thing you would see with a sort of StarCraft kind of deal, so that makes sense. That would be a cool idea. I'm not going to lie, that's a cool idea, if that's actually what it is. Luigi's Mansion 3 for Switch, I think that's probably going to happen, because I've heard a few rumblings here and there of it. The Outer Worlds, I don't know why, is a rumor. I would imagine we're seeing something of it. And it would probably be a Microsoft's press conference at this point, if not the PC gaming show perhaps, but it's definitely got to be on one of the two. So I wouldn't be surprised about that. I don't think that's a rumor. I think we should be seeing that. It just recently happened, I don't know if it was yesterday or a couple days ago, that a Splinter Cell might have been leaked. So we might see that at Ubisoft. That would not surprise me as well. It's been a while since we've had a Splinter Cell. I didn't play a lot of the old ones. I know I played, I can't remember which one it was on 360. Let me quickly... Actually, no, I'm not going to do that because it's going to take me forever to find it. And I want to try to get through this last few things quickly. So let's not do that. But, I mean, if there's another one coming back, that's cool. I know a few people that have been desperate for wanting to get another one, so that would be nice to see. A first real hardline Pokemon for Switch, I think that's a foregone conclusion. That has to be coming out this year. Not necessarily releasing this year, but I think it would make sense for them to reveal it and have it for the fall by the holiday season at least. Because, you know, kids are going to want to have just buy the shit out of that stuff again. And every parent will be in line trying to get a copy. And then last on the list here is Wolfenstein Youngblood. I would not be surprised again if that's a thing. I mean, if it's... I've seen rumblings again that that's a thing, and it would make sense to see that. I believe... Is that Bethesda or Ubisoft? Shit. I think that's Bethesda. This is the one I am going to search because I don't want to be wrong on this. I'm pretty sure it's Bethesda. Yeah, it is Bethesda. Okay. Yeah, I would not be surprised to see that. So that's all the rumored stuff. So all I want to talk about now before I go is Avengers, because that is probably the biggest game aside from, oh my god, what did I say earlier that I was really excited for? I can't believe my memory is as bad as it can be sometimes. So let's go back to the top here of the list and see which game it was. Oh yeah, Trails of Cold Steel 3 was definitely one of them, but there was one before. What the bloody hell was it? I'm gonna facepalm when I finally see it and be like, really, I forgot that much about it. Maybe that's what it was. Why can't I find it? I'm sure that there was one that I was a lot more excited for. I'm losing my bloody mind. Oh, well, no, it wasn't Avengers. It was wow, this is really rough. You know what? I'm not gonna think what it is anymore because I can't believe, like, I'm looking at the list and I still can't. I'm not looking at anything and being like, oh, Cyberpunk, Jesus. All right. Yeah, so those two are the ones I'm looking forward to the most. Avengers is now becoming big on my list because now the things that I'm hearing about it make me so curious. So we had a bit of a leak, and a little bit of information has come out, and I want to just share what that is and to give my thoughts on what it might be. So this is all we know at this point, and obviously we'll know at Square's conference. We should hopefully get a gameplay thing so we know what the hell we're getting. But this is what we know. So the gameplay is confirmed to be both single-player and multiplayer modes, with cooperative four-player gameplay being a huge component. Being a world that offers persistent threat from Thanos, which seems it's like an open-ended narrative. And it could even be an always online element. Now, before I even go any further, all this sounds to me, and this is what's going to be the biggest hype train for me, is that it sounds a lot like an Avengers Destiny kind of game. That would be incredible. and I will get to gushing about that as soon as I get through the rest of the stuff. You can customize your hero in terms of abilities, appearance, and otherwise. It's not clear, though, if it means you're playing as one of the Avengers or creating your own Avenger. And I'm not opposed to either, but I think it will be disappointing to people if we get our first Avengers game and it's not having the Avengers in it, or at least playable. If they're there to the side and maybe you're like a new hopeful, I don't know. But I would think people would be very disappointed if it was, oh, you create your own superhero, because they probably, after seeing all the movies, I think you'd want to play as Iron Man or Cap or Hulk or anybody. But for me, if you get to create your own character, that's not the worst thing either. I would not be that upset about it. I would just be like, all right, well, you need to make this game really cool to kind of at least balance out the people that are not too happy about it. Let's see, what else is here? There will be some heavy role-playing game elements towards the end, which makes sense. It's Square making the damn thing. They are calling it that it should be very much MCU-level storytelling, which after playing the Spider-Man game, I fully believe is possible. Other than that, like I said, there's hints about it structuring like a MMORPG, but it could be a hybrid middle ground. And that's kind of where it sits at. But because of the up to 4 in your party, it does make me believe, and this is where I'm going to go with it now, as I close this page, and I'm literally just going to gush for the rest of the show. This sounds a lot to me like potentially having a game very much like Destiny, or very much like Ghost Recon Wildlands, or Borderlands, or various games of that ilk. Now, I'm not saying looter shooter level stuff, but it's possible that it could be like that. Like you just get accessories for your weapons, or you get better weapons for, like, say, this is going under the assumption that you're a creative character. You could be deciding, well, this is the weapon that I use, or I fight with my fists, and you just get better power-ups for your character to level up and do stuff, better armor, all that kind of stuff. I think the openness, or the open possibility of it being very much like a Destiny kind of game is there, and I'm very hyped for that, because after being so burned out of looter shooters, it would be amazing to have a game in a similar setup, in terms of how everything is done based on story, maybe things like loot, maybe how the open world acts. It would be amazing to have that, but in not a shooting capacity, in a first-person shooting or a third-person shooting capacity, like, say, a Division or a Destiny or a Wildlands or a Borderlands, like all those. To have it, say, in a third-person, like, beat-em-up sort of scenario would be really cool to me. Now, I don't know if it doesn't sound like it's a full MMORPG like a World of Warcraft, because it's only up to 4 people. So what we may be seeing may be akin to like a Marvel Ultimate Alliance, but in an open world facet. There's so many open possibilities about it that I can't help but be very curious on what's going on. But I am kind of holding back to be like, well, this could be a bit rough, and this could be a little underwhelming. Because, I mean, Square, I find, is very hit and miss. Like, you'll either see stuff from them that blows you away, or you'll see stuff that be like, oh, that's all you got? That's it? So, while the hype for me is going over the moon right now, I also have to remember that just because I think it's going to be something does not mean it might even be remotely close to what I think it's going to be. It could just be a beat 'em up. It could just be a straight beat 'em up that's just got open stuff a little bit to it, like you're just traversing. It could be very much kind of like what, say, a Dragon Age Inquisition would be, like you're just going around, you'll fight enemies randomly on there and that kind of stuff, but that's not a terrible idea either. But all I can say is that I cannot believe that an Avengers game, especially a comic book related game, is like one of the games I'm looking forward to the most this E3. Because as of late, anything that had a Marvel label or a DC label on top of it was not always that great, except for Batman, and even then Batman sometimes isn't that good. As we saw with, what was the third one? Because it was Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, I think it was Arkham Origins if I remember correctly, and that was a stinker. And then obviously Arkham Knight was a lot better. There is the potential that we're going to see a great Avengers game, and that's amazing. And the only reason that I have that is like what I said with Marvel Spider-Man, the first episode, is that game being good opens the door for Marvel games to be really good again, because we haven't had really good Marvel games since like Spider-Man 2 on the PS2. Like that's the last one I can remember actually absolutely loving, because we've had so many hit and misses. Hulk games have sucked. Iron Man games suck. Various Spider-Man games have sucked. We haven't seen a Cap one, but no Thor one, which makes sense. I don't know if I could imagine a Thor game other than... Actually, no, wasn't there a Thor game now that I think about it? I think there was, and it was garbage too. Either way. But yeah, I'm super excited to see where this goes. And man, it's going to be an interesting E3, especially with some people being out of it. I hope Sony does a state of play relatively around this time. It could be later, because like I said, they haven't announced anything. And they may not at all. They may just be biding their time and waiting to see what Microsoft does specifically. So all I can say is this C3 is shaping to be either much more surprising and much more interesting than I think it's going to be, or it's going to be as underwhelming as I believe it will be, because I'm not actually looking forward to E3 that much. And obviously Sony not being there because I'm a PlayStation owner is a big part of that, but also because I think we're starting to notice that people are winding down on how much they go at E3, and they're just doing it on their own time. Obviously, Nintendo has their directs, so they're doing reveals every few months. Obviously, Sony is now going to that as well. A lot of big games are being revealed just out of nowhere on its own time. So E3 is not necessarily the place every year that you're going to see everything. So I'm not expecting a blowaway E3 like we've seen in the past. It may not be offensively bad, but you never know. We'll see how things are. So like I said, guys, my intent is to recap all of the ones that I mentioned. So that is EA, Microsoft, Bethesda, Ubisoft, Square, and Nintendo. If Sony happens to have a state of play, I will do that as well. I'm not going to give you a time frame on when those can happen. I might have a couple done before Wednesday, depending on if I have time to record. Otherwise, I will be doing as much as I can Wednesday and Thursday, presumably. I should have everything up by Friday if things go the way that I want them to. That's the plan. So I'm going to leave it at that. So thanks again for listening, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're interested in seeing more stuff. Obviously, I didn't post anything aside from the podcast this week. There just wasn't anything that I really wanted to talk about aside from that. Obviously, I'm going to make up for it next week with a crap ton of recaps, so there will be that. And don't forget to share with everybody. I'm going to start posting this in other places as well now that I know that I'm starting to do this consistently, because you know what? Wednesday has turned out to be a lot of a better day than I ever thought it was going to be. Hopefully, I can keep doing this in the morning because I'm just about to finish, obviously, and they're not banging around right next to my window. So, assuming that I can keep doing this every Wednesday morning, it's perfect. If I have to do it towards the evening, that's fine, and maybe have it up by Thursday, that's cool too. I'm just happy that I'm able to have a consistent show that I don't have a problem doing with right now. If there ends up being a really slow news day, then I'll have to figure out what to do on that front, but at this point in time, it's not so bad. Now, with all the recaps, I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do for the podcast. I may not even do one just because of all the recaps that I'll be doing, because I don't want to have one podcast being 7 recaps. I would rather do them separately for you guys. If I can find something to talk about that's worth going after when it comes to next Wednesday when I would be recording a podcast, then I'll do that. Otherwise, I will just put the recaps out like normal, and there will be no podcast till the following week when, obviously there should be some news to talk about. If there happens to be enough, then I will do, but it has to be outside of E3. So if there's like things that maybe is going on, like smaller stories that have to do more with like interactions with people, or maybe some big scandal, God only knows, or anything with wrestling or sports that I want to talk about. If there's enough to get a half hour in, I will do that, but I kind of expect that it will just be the recaps for next week. So again, because I'm always terrible at ending these things properly, thanks for listening or watching, depending on if you're having the window up or not. Don't know why you do. It's a still image. But anyways, thanks again, and we'll see you next time.